This poor man can have her, it's no loss to me. In fact, this is the kind of person she should get married to. So she accepted. Once upon a time in a distant village called Nweke, there lived a kind-hearted man named Chidi. Chidi had 2 wives. His first wife was Amoka and the second wife was Adan. Amoka was a very gentle and kind woman. She was loved by everyone. She had a beautiful daughter named Gozi. 8 years have passed since she had Gozi. Kids were no longer coming. She could no more have children, which saddened her deeply. Because of this, Chidi's family made trouble with Amoka, urging Chidi to marry his second wife, which he bluntly refused. One day, Mama Chidi came to visit them in their house in Akwoka town where Chidi and his wife lived. Amoka was very happy to see her mother-in-law since she had not seen her for a while. "Oh, Mama, you're welcome. How was your trip?" she happily asked her as she tried to take her luggage from her. "I will be fine when you give my son children. I want grandchildren, not a grandchild. What if anything happens to her? I'll be left with none. Please don't ask me if I'm fine. You know I'm not fine and I won't be until you give me more grandchildren." After dropping her mother-in-law's luggage, she went straight to her room and cried. All through her stay in the house, Mama Chidi refused to talk to Amoka or eat anything she prepared. Chidi's mother urged him to marry a second wife, hoping for more grandchildren. "Mama, I love my wife so much and God has blessed us with a beautiful, intelligent and hardworking daughter and she's enough." "Enough? What is enough? Enough for where? She's not. We want more grandchildren. We want a full house. We know she's everything you've mentioned and we love her, but we want more to be on a safer side." When the pressure became too much, Amoka pleaded with her husband to get a second wife. Chidi refused, but when she kept begging, he had to listen to her. So Chidi married Adan, who seemed nice at first but soon showed her true colors. Adan was not kind like Amoka. She had 2 daughters, Chioma and Ofoma, and 2 sons, Obaina and Uche, for Chidi. Unlike Ngozi, Adan's children were not kind and often behaved badly, just like their mother who always caused a lot of trouble in the house. Sometimes Chidi would travel with his lovely wife Amoka to a neighboring town to have a quiet time with his wife just so they could rest from Adan's troubles. One day, while returning from a friend's wedding at his hometown, Nweke, the car was involved in a ghastly accident. Both Chidi and Amoka died. This saddened Gozi's heart as she was lonely and alone. Tears became her daily bread. One day, while she was crying, Adam walked up to her and said, "You better stand up from here and do something useful with your life. Do you think your tears will bring them back? You better go and wash the dishes and prepare food for me and my children to eat." With Amoka and Chidi gone, Adam became very cruel to Ngozi. She made Ngozi do all the house chores and would not let her rest, and oftentimes she would not give her food till evening. So she continued to suffer in the hands of her stepmother. She became a maid in her own father's house. Each time Mama Chidi came visiting, Adam pretended as though she had been very nice to Ngozi and she never allowed her to visit Mama Chidi, their grandmother. As Ngozi grew up, many young men came to ask for her hand in marriage because she was not only beautiful but also had a good heart. But Adam chased them away, saying all manner of awful things about her to scare them away, always saying her daughters were better suited for marriage. One day, while Ngozi went on an errand for her stepmother, she mistakenly kicked a stone and fell down. A poor-looking handsome young man helped her up. His name was Emeka. Emeka was dressed in old clothes and looked very poor. They both exchanged pleasantries. He saw her off to where she was going, walked her to her house, and left. "I think I like her," he said to himself, smiling. "I will just make her my friend and watch her carefully. And I will make some findings to know who she really is." Emeka was just a common bread seller that sells bread by the roadside. After making his findings, he concluded that he was going to marry her. Since her stepmother doesn't accept good-looking and wealthy men to marry her, then she will accept a poor bread seller like me. Perfect, he said. So he became her friend. Sometimes he would go visit her and vice versa. Adan never complained about Emeka because she felt he was the kind of person she needed, a very poor man. So she was happy each time she saw the both of them together. One day, a man who had been talking to Gozi about marriage came to ask for her hand in marriage. She was happy. He was a good man and she was going to accept his proposal. But when Adan realized that if she doesn't do something, the marriage might work out, she came up with an evil plan with her children. Adan asked Gozi to prepare food for her in-laws. When the food was ready, Adan added a lot of salt and pepper to the food. When it was time to serve the food, Gozi served the food. Immediately our visitors had a taste of it. They screamed and asked who prepared the food. And they all pointed at Gozi. They all shouted at her, "Is this how you will kill our son with your bad food?" And they left angrily. Gozi cried, "When will I ever get married? All my mates are getting married. Adan's 2 daughters are married to men who came for my hand in marriage. When will I ever be free from this bondage?" She kept lamenting and crying. When Emeka heard about Ngozi's marriage, he was heartbroken because he liked her and was waiting for the right time to ask for her hand in marriage. "Well, I'm happy for her, perhaps she was never mine. She is my friend anyway, I wish her a happy married life." So he continued his business, only for him to hear people whispering. When he got to the scene and asked what the matter was, he was surprised. He knew it was Adan's handwork. He quickly packed his bread and ran to Ngozi's house. She was crying profusely. "It's okay, stop crying. I know it's not your fault. I have tasted your food and I know you're a good cook. This is Adan's handwork and I know it." So he took her to his house and she was there till evening and he walked her back home. When he returned to his house, he said to himself, "Perhaps she's the one. What better time to ask for her hand in marriage if not now? But I wouldn't want to rush out with all this drama that has just happened. I will give her a very little time," then popped the question. He was so excited, hoping she wouldn't turn him down. After a month, Emeka asked Adan if he could marry Gozi. Adan laughed and thought to herself, "Why not? This poor man can have her. It's no loss to me. In fact, this is the kind of person she should get married to." So she accepted. Gozi, knowing Emeka was poor, still saw kindness in his eyes and agreed to marry him. "He is the only friend I have and he's a very nice person. Though we might not have enough, we can work together and make this life a better and a conducive place for us and our children," she thought. So she agreed to marry him. As the wedding day approached, Adan and her daughters pretended to help, but mocking and laughing at them because they could barely afford anything. They had just a few drinks and food, but they didn't mind. After the wedding, Emeka took Ngozi to his home, which was far from the village. To Ngozi's surprise, they didn't stop at his small hut as she expected, but at a very big and beautiful house, surrounded by gardens and fields with lots of maids at her beck and call. Emeka then revealed he was not poor at all, but a very wealthy man who had disguised himself to find a true and loving wife. Ngozi was amazed and happy, not because of the wealth, but because she found someone who loved and respected her. Meanwhile, Adan's sons were wayward, always bringing trouble to her. She married off Chioma and Ufoma to 2 of the rich men that once came to seek for Ngozi's hand in marriage, but their bad characters were soon discovered. Emeka and Gozi lived happily, and Gozi always treated everyone with kindness, just as she had done all her life, no matter how her stepmother had treated her. As time went by, Gozi and Emeka were known not just for their wealth, but also for their generosity and kindness. They often helped the villagers with their problems and provided for those in need. Gozi never forgot how she was treated by her stepmother, so she made sure to treat everyone with respect and compassion. One day, a big festival was announced in the village. It is an annual festival which is held once every year. Emeka's family has been the host after the father passed away. He has hosted for the past 3 years. It marked the time of the year when they got freedom from a neighboring kingdom that held them captive for ages, taking all their crops, leaving them with almost nothing to feed. It was Emeka's great-great-grandfather who took his 7 sons and conquered the entire kingdom and brought victory to the people. Since then, Emeka's family has been treated like royalty, highly esteemed. There's nothing that happens in the kingdom without the knowledge of the heads of Emeka's family. The ceremony is usually held in the village square. It lasts for 7 days in 3 different locations. Part of it was at the king's palace, Emeka's house, and the larger part at the village square. It's a very colorful event where lots of gifts are given out. People from far and wide usually attend this grand occasion, including Gozi's village. It covers a lot of dancing, singing, and magical performances, and lots more. Villagers from near and far were invited. Adan and her family were also invited, and preparations began for the grand events. Chioma and Euphoma were sent back by their husbands because of their arrogant, lazy, and dirty lifestyle. They were caught cheating as they went out with men who were wealthier than their husbands. Obaina and Uche were involved in a robbery attack and were caught, and since then have been in the police custody. Chioma and Euphoma saw this as an opportunity to see rich men for themselves. Unrepentant, their mother encouraged them to look their best and should catch the attention of the most important men in the occasion. They were all still as evil as ever. Their mother never blamed them for cheating, but encouraged them to go after more rich men so she could continue to live a lavish lifestyle. Chioma and Euphoma walked on their best dresses and practiced their manners, laughing and making mockery of Gozi. Chioma said, "Hey, Gozi, sorry oh. People like you can never be privileged to attend such grand events. Even if you were still here, you wouldn't have. I hope you are still alive because we don't even know where your poor and wretched husband came from, and we didn't bother to ask because we don't care. As long as we don't get to see you, we are okay." They all laughed and continued with their preparations. The day of the festival arrived, and the house was filled with laughter, music, and delicious aroma of traditional dishes. Adan and her daughters went to Emeka's mansion where a section of the occasion was held. They preferred Emeka's house because the best gifts usually come from that section. Gozi, glowing in a beautiful dress, welcomed each guest with a warm smile, making everyone feel at home. As Adan and her children approached the mansion, they felt nervous but hopeful. They were greeted at the door by Gozi, who was surprised to see them. Her heart was torn. She remembered the harshness with which her stepmother treated her, but she managed to control her anger with a warm smile as she welcomed them in. She left her chief maid in charge and hurriedly left to her room, sad, reminiscing everything Adan and her children had done to her in her own father's house, the pain she had to bear. Emeka noticed the absence of his wife and started looking for her. When he couldn't find her, he asked her chief maid, who told him she had gone to her room. He quickly rushed there and found her crying. "What is the matter?" he asked her, but she kept crying. When he continued pressing on her to talk to him, she told him what she had seen. "I understand how you feel. But you should be grateful that in the end, it didn't go as they intended. For the will of God prevailed. Be grateful to God that you're the one laughing at last. I know it hurts. But think about the good side. All the harsh and ill treatment made you the strong woman you are today. And if not for her behavior, I wouldn't have met you. So it's all for the good. Smile for me, my love. Everything will be alright." So she smiled gently and he hugged her and brought her back to the festival. Gozi decided to let the past be and welcome them with the same kindness she showed to other guests. The festival continued with great joy and everyone enjoyed the music and dance. Adan and her daughters bowed their heads in shame. Emeka went to meet them and greeted them with a warm smile. He gave them lots of gifts and told them they could spend the night in the mansion since it was a very long journey back to their place. And it was already getting late and this was just the first day of the occasion. They were taken to a room that was bigger than their entire house. Unrepentant, Adan and her daughters plotted how they would kill Gozi, then use some diabolic means to get Emeka to marry Chioma. She felt the wealth was just too much for Gozi alone. Gozi refused to see them. All she wanted was the dawn of the day so they could leave already. Little did she know that they were planning on staying longer to execute their evil plans. As the evening wore on, Emeka noticed the effort of Chioma and Euphoma and whispered to Ngozi, perhaps they are trying to change for the better. Ngozi nodded, change where? These two will never change. Except their mother changes, they won't change. The festival ended late into the night. Guests left with happy hearts and full bellies praising Gozi and Emeka for their hospitality. Chioma and Euphoma helped to clean up but Ngozi felt in her heart that these two were up to something. They cannot change, she said to herself.